Hi friends, welcome to my channel. In this video, I will give you a quick tour on how to add a basic interaction in ProtoPie. Let's start with the scene. So, ProtoPie has a conceptual model with object, trigger, and response. Simply saying, when you trigger an object, it will have response that you asked for. Let's check out the scene 2 with some examples. So I created some variation, what kind of trigger and response you can try out. So I will start with this blue rectangle and add our first trigger with tap. And when I tap this rectangle, which is an object, I want it to respond with a change of the radius, where you can find here. So I'm currently adding a response called radius here, and I will make it to radius with 5 pixel. So if I go to the preview and tap once, you will see that the radius has changed. Simple? Okay, if not, we'll go through over and over. Okay, so that was my first interaction that I added for this one object. Not only one interaction, you can also a second interaction to this in the same object. I'm gonna add double tap trigger on this blue rectangle again. So one tip is that if you just select nothing and add trigger, you will have to add again what you want to assign. But if you already select an object and add a trigger, it will auto select it what you select based on what you select before. So that was a small tip for you. And coming back to the double tap, so I'm gonna add this time a scale. So there are a lot of options here to respond, but I will choose scale for this time. And I wanted to scale in 2 different ways. So one way is you can scale it to like an exact value, like 200% and 200 pixels or 150 pixel, as much as you wish. Or you can also use a percentage. So for example, I'm gonna use 120%. Then without knowing what was this exact value was, it's gonna scale to 120% of its value. So when I tap once, it's very subtle, but you can see the border has been rounded. And if I quickly double tap it, now it's scaled to 120% size. So this is the second interaction that I added. Okay, next one, let's try with the touchdown. So touchdown is like a 2 divided interaction of the tap. I mean, that's how I try to understand. But so what it means is when I add the trigger touchdown for the ping, it's already selected. And when I add an opacity to, let's say, 30%, then when I click this rectangle, it's gonna be like faded out a bit with the opacity of 30%. And when I touch up, which means when I move away my finger, it's gonna stay like this unless I give interaction response for touch up. So for tap, it's just when you press in and up, things happen. But for touch down and up, you have a separate down and up interaction. Does it make sense? I hope so. So I'm gonna show you with the touch up. So this is an interaction when you touch up, and you can make it a reset, which is a very useful tool in any occasion that instead of making opacity to 0, you just can add a reset without remembering what you did before for this interaction. So if I go to preview and when I touch it, I'm touching it, I'm not letting it go. And I'm gonna let go now, and look at it, that now is back to the 100% opacity without specifying the opacity value back to its origin. Great, so that's the one thing you can try out for touch up and touch down. And the next one, I will show you the long press. So not only just a very short click, you can have a long press, like for a few seconds. So, a bug. Okay, now it works. So when I have a long press trigger and I want to have a rotate of the triangle, you can have different direction to rotate, and you can also have exact value or the amount, how much I want it to rotate. So let's say I'm gonna make it rotate by 360 degrees. And when I have a super long press, yeah, I was just holding the screen, and now the square just rotated. And I can do many times. I'm just gonna long press it again, and again, it's gonna rotate all the time. So this one is pretty easy. Oh, and one more tip. So you can change the origin of the rectangles, how you want to rotate. So if I make it in the corner and I press it for a long time, it's gonna rotate in this corner. Feel free to make a custom anchor or origin for the rotation as well. And the next one is a fling. So I didn't understand what fling was at first. So because like you have to slide animation, right? So like, or swipe. So like swipe and slide, like you're kind of touching the surface like for a long time. But fling is very short. So you're like, I cannot show you my finger because Memoji doesn't have a finger. But I'll try to show you somehow. So let's just do it. So when I have the fling left to right, and I'm gonna make it move, this green rectangle, move to 20 pixel, move by 20 pixel. Also again, move to will make you go to the exact position, but move by will make it move around 20 amount of the 20 pixel. Does it make sense? Amount of 20 pixel. I don't know if this is right English, but yeah, so I will show you. So when I fling it, so I'm just like shortly flinging it and it's gonna move to left to right. So here you see the direction that I made it left to right. Of course you can do right to left and up and down, but you can control the movement X or Y. I only used the X because I wanted to move it to the right side. And if I want to have other way around, I'm just gonna copy and paste it and change the direction and move by minus 20 pixel. So when I fling it to the right side, it goes right. And if I do left, it goes the other way. Okay, so you can use this for the group component as well. So feel free to play around with this. So the next one, the pull. So when I add the pull trigger, you can also have again the direction, but I'm gonna use left to right again. And here you can use the distance, let's say 50%. And for this, you can also add different ones, but I'm gonna show you the color. So in ProtoPie, you can change the color of an object. So I'm gonna make to green. So which means, so when I pull this trigger until 50, which is here, I cannot go more than here, so around 50, then and then let it go, then the color change to this one. So again, so when I don't reach that 50, it's really hard to show, but like before it's not going to happen, that green color. But when I reach the 50 area, then it changed to the green color that I assigned it. So it's pretty interesting. So you can like make it like a swap interaction for this one. And the next one, I want to show you the drag, pinch, and rotate. So I'm gonna first show the drag, which is gonna make you move. And what is interesting for this one is you can make it move vertically or horizontally like this, but you can also make it like in the free space. So I have some examples in the other tutorials that I made a map using the drag, pinch, and rotate. And I'm just gonna show you the pinch and rotate, how to add it. But please check out the tutorials for the map interaction, because I cannot show you the pinch and rotate in the web. So here you can see the pinch. Pinching means with these two fingers that you're like zooming in, and you can have the scale. So what's gonna happen is when you pinch this brown rectangle, this rectangle will scale in a bigger way. You can also select the direction, but check it out. And also the rotate is the same. So when you add the rotate, you can only add rotate. So it's obviously when you rotate this in your mobile phone, this brown thing will rotate again. And of course, you can change your origin, how you want to rotate it. Okay. So the next one we have is a bit like a web component. So this is like when you mouse over it, we will have a response for, again, a border. Not again, but it's pretty cool that you can also change a border in ProtoPie. So I'm gonna make like yellow and make inside border with 5 pixel. So if I go to preview, I'm gonna just go over like this again. So like go over like this. So I just went over, I didn't press it or anything. So it's like a hover effect in the web. It's just gonna make this border when I go over this surface of this rectangle. And also in the other direction, I can also make like mouse out effect. So for this one, I can create a shadow as well, which is super cool. So I'm also gonna make yellow so that I can have like a glow and make a blur to 20 pixel. But I'm not gonna make any direction like X and Y. So if I go here, mouse on, you see the border. And when I remove my cursor outside, there's a glow here. Yay! Pretty cool. I haven't really used it because I'm mostly working on mobile platform, but I think this is pretty cool and handy. Yeah, so this was mouse over and out. And almost the last. So when I tap this white square, I wanted to rotate in a 3-dimensional way. Yeah, exciting. This is super exciting. But so here you can see direction and pivot and perspective depth. I have a good example with a 3D card rotation example with other tutorials. So please check out how it can work. But for now, I will show simply how it rotates in one direction. So I'm gonna make it rotate by instead of 2 again, and make it rotate. Yeah, I will rotate it left to right direction. So let's try it out. So when I tap, it is very small, but you can see every time I tap is rotating like this. Yay! Rotate. Sorry. Anyways, so that was a 3D effect that ProtoPie provides. And lastly, I guess this is a pretty commonly used feature, which is a jump. So this one I also didn't use often, but eventually this press is, you can choose another devices or the key in your keyboard. But when I enter in my computer this enter key, then I can make this go to the another page. So I had to spend so much time to look how to move to the other scene, and this jump was that one to go to the other page. It's so weird why it was so difficult for me to figure this out, but eventually this is how you go to the other scene. So I can choose like a scene 3 because I have 3 pages here. So when I go to the scene 3, I want it to pop. So you can also choose like a different transition, like sliding in and out and fade, flip, and so on, or choose a delay. For now, so when I press enter, I'm gonna say goodbye to all of this list and pop, going to the next scene. Yeah, so let's go to the next scene for the other interactions. So here I already added to speed it up a bit. So first trigger I want to show you is start. So start is like when you don't want to make any action, and if you want anything to happen in the scene automatically, you can use this trigger. So when you add this trigger, and let's say add a responsive color with 3 seconds of duration and 0.4 seconds of delay, you can see here when I refresh it. So the dot was here and I didn't do anything, and the dot just disappeared. So you can do anything what you want with this start trigger, but this is like eventually starting any trigger and response when the scene starts. So you can also choose start after the jump or with the jump. To be honest, I don't know the difference so much, but there it is. And the next one is tab. This is super cool feature as well. So this is like literal text, so I can just remove and say tab title, and you can tab the text here, or you can text anything else to trigger it. But what happens is you can create your own text. For example, title is pressed, and when I tap this title, then you're gonna have this text in the text field that you just tapped. That's a confusing word. Tap tap tap. Sorry, it's pretty late today and I'm a bit buzzed. But anyways, yeah. So this is the other interaction response that you can play around with as a text. Actually, you can also do the formula, but this is a little bit advanced, so I will keep it for later. Yep, and the next one I want to show you is a background blur. So in the previous video, I've introduced the iOS background blur that you can play around. And here, this is an iOS background blur here. And I made a trigger to tap this blur, and I added the response of background blur to have ultra thin material light, while the original layer has none effect. So that's why you don't see it. So I'm gonna tap it, then you're gonna see this blur, kind of like a glass feeling of blur here. And lastly, I will show you the quick reorder response. So what I did here was when I tap, it just changes the order. Usually it's called set index, what is over on each other. But anyhow, when I tap white square, I made this go to the back. So this is a reorder response, let you reorder your order. And you can make it one level, bring forward or down, or totally up front or totally backside. So you can play around. So both of them has going to the backwards. So when I press blue, the blue is going to the backward, and if I tap the white one goes to the backward. So yeah, you can play around with this as much as you want. So that's it for today. I hope you got some sense of basic interaction in ProtoPie and start adding your interaction in your Pi. Yeah, so if you like this video, please press like, subscribe, and press the notification bell for upcoming videos. And see you in the next video.